Hello, everyone. It's Dan King here, as always, from Fireside Strategic. And on our show, we explore the journeys of what we call creator CEOs. So, there's two kinds of CEOs. There's the engineer CEOs who build assembly lines and get things done. And then there's the creator CEO, the CEO that wants to build a business to achieve meaningful things in the world. And on this show, we explore ways for them to grow their businesses and their lives, to build the businesses and lives of their dreams. And to that end, I'm really excited to have Justin Donald with us today, who is the founder of The Lifestyle Investor. Justin, welcome to the show. Really, really happy to have you. Would love to start off with a little bit about your backstory and your mission in the world right now.
Well, I love it. What you said, Dan, resonates so much about building, your ideal life. And that's it. I mean, what my brand is, and it's really a passion project that kind of evolved bigger and brighter and faster than I could have ever imagined, just because of great people wanting to jump on board. But it's exactly that. It's instead of going through life reacting to everything, instead carving out the time to proactively, intentionally plan what it looks like. Because people are so good at knowing exactly what they don't want and exactly what they don't like, but they're less clear, to my experience, on knowing exactly what it is that they do want. And so I just think finding that, taking that time and writing it down in vivid technicolors, everything. So I love that what you already are sharing with your podcast, with your show, it just resonates so much with me.
Well, very happy to hear that. Was this always the way you were? Like, I'm curious to dig into your backstory. Was it always natural for you to think proactively as opposed to reactively? Did it take some time to get there? Like, tell me about your journey.
Yeah, I think that one takes time. I got caught in the trap of being busy. And I even worked for a company that I'm so thankful I worked for. I learned incredible skills, but the mantra of that organization was really based on work ethic. And the most important thing was work ethic. And so I just grew up, and also my dad was very work ethic oriented. So I just grew up with that, thinking like I had to work hard. When you work hard, you can earn others' respect and you can, move up, and that looks good in people's eyes and that feels good. And I think there's something great to be said about work ethic and the ability to have it and to show up when you need to with work ethic. But at the end of the day, I really think efficiency is, kind of trumps it, and smart decisions. And there's just so much you can do that can allow you to mitigate or carve out work ethic. Work hard on these things, these key areas, this 20% that produces, 80% of the results. And then don't work hard on these areas that don't do a whole lot. So I just feel like I learned a lot of things. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, both in the entrepreneurial world, small business, startup, to then being in the investing world where, I have an opportunity to, first it's investing in myself. And I think it's really hard to screw up investing in yourself. But when you start investing in companies and other investments, it's possible that you make some mistakes and, you can lose some money, but those are often some of the best mistakes that limit what you lose in the future.
Yes. I like all of that. And so, we could particularly pick up on this first point about work ethic. And I think, for our audience of business owners, work ethic is drummed into all of them as well from a very young age. And it's one thing to hear the idea of the Pareto principle of, hey, like 20% of the actions are going to get you 80% of the results. It's another thing to live by that day to day when you have a team that's coming to you and saying, ooh, I don't know what to do about this. Or you have an angry customer that is really, really frustrated. How can we live by that principle day by day?
Well, I think you can put some checks and balances in place. You can have accountability around it. For me, one of the most important things I ever did to kind of level up in my life, in my business game, in my financial game, in my health game, in my relationship game, whatever it is, the best thing I ever did was found a peer group that was really good at that thing, or found mentors and coaches, and probably it was both in most cases. And they helped me to level up, and they gave me a place to have accountability. And sometimes I didn't like that accountability, but it's what I needed, right?
Yes.
It's what helped me to grow and become who I am today, and make the decisions that I may not have made without that group. So I think some of it is that. I think some of it could be as simple as even putting reminders into your computer that might pop up. So I do this to myself all the time, where I'll put an email reminder, or I'll put a pop-up, and it will redirect me to. So most of the time I want nothing to distract me. But if it's my main thing, where this one key difference maker, I just had Jeff Woods on my podcast, and he's the VP of the one thing, and he just talks about knowing what your one thing is. So if your one thing is making sure you're spending the majority of your time on what produces the majority of work, you can have things that notify you via your computer, your phone, your, whatever technology, however you want to do it.
Yeah. I love that. And I think we can absolutely make this thing, technology that can be the source of so much reactivity, we can harness it to build that proactive life that you're talking about. It doesn't have to be the enemy. It doesn't have to be a distraction machine. I think we
That's
can
right.
be for so many of us, we're fairly new at using some of these tools. We haven't evolved to a stage where it's sort of natural and easy, and we can be proactive with them. But when we learn to be proactive with them, they can be our allies instead of our enemies.
That's right. There's no doubt.
Yeah. So speaking of one things, I know one big thing for you these days is investing. And having consumed some of your content there, I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think there's a lot of people out there who talk about investing. I think you come at it from some unique angles. Curious to learn how you think about investing in general.
Well, thank you for the kind words. For me, one of the things that I decided to do when I first started getting into it, Dan, is I wanted to kind of figure out, number one, what is it that the majority of people are doing? Because what the majority of people do, it doesn't work. Most people aren't retiring, like fully retiring. Most people aren't living the life that they want. So what do most people do? So that way I can not do that. And then what do the people who I aspire to be like do? What do the big time entrepreneurs do, or the big time investors? Who is living the life that I want to live? So it's kind of on both sides, right? Like what is it I don't want to do? And then what is it that I do want to do? And so it was really clear to me, because at the beginning, I didn't know a lot of people that crushed it in the game of business or crushed it in the game of investing. Those people weren't in my network. So it started for me with, what do I not want to do? Okay, well, these people here are not living the life that I desire. I'm pretty sure they're not living the life they desire either. And by the way, no judgment on what anyone does, right? It's like everyone can do whatever they think is best for them and their family in that time, in that season. And I just want to assume that people are doing that. But at the end of the day, routine kicks in and habit kicks in. And sometimes it's hard to leave a thing that at one point was a good thing, but maybe is no longer a good thing. So recognizing where I didn't want to go, running the opposite direction, and eventually reading books, and really it started with authors because I didn't have the network. And then eventually I just started going to events and just started meeting people. Yeah. And I made my way into connecting with the right people by joining enough groups or going to enough like formal functions. And so I would meet people, and I was so curious. I would always have so many questions, and I found that a lot of people just enjoyed answering them. And they felt like no one really asked them anything, or the people that asked them maybe didn't have this yearning to learn. And so I just felt like if I showed up as an eager student, then people would, eagerly teach me. And that is really what happened. It took some time. Yeah. But once you get one person in, you get into their circle, you get into their network, and you just meet a ton of other people.
Yeah. That curiosity is such an important driver because it's so easy to be ball to the wall doing whatever you're doing. It's so easy to get into the habit of day-to-day life and lose that. Here again is that proactivity, right? You made a
Mhm.
point of saying, I'm going to learn about this. I'm going to meet people that can teach me. I'm going to read books that can teach me. And I'm going to be single-minded in my focus so that I can get out of where I am, right? And build exactly the life I want. And I'm going to scrap the rest, basically.
That's right. And by the way, that takes some discipline too, right? Because there's so many other things that we want to do. There are routines that we're in. We've got things that are just easier to do. It's like when you have important things to do, but you do the other things you can just check off your list because they're easy. I mean, you have to work hard to be intentional. And then eventually being intentional becomes easy.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, in speaking to all these people and reading all these books, if you were to distill it down to kind of 2 or 3 essential principles that, before anything else, are most important for us to learn, what would those be?
Well, one of them is to really value the time that we have. So, do I want to be spending my time doing things that I don't enjoy, or do I want to find a way to outsource those things?
Mm,
So I've been in various different businesses where I've had my hands in everything, and I either didn't know how to scale, I didn't know how to um, put people in the right place, I didn't think about it enough, I didn't study it, and so I ended up doing everything, and that takes a lot of time and energy. And I learned over time that just hiring people, the right people, to do a job that you're doing, even if they're 70% as good as you, if you do this in mass, it ends up being way more than you could ever do. I could have 5 people doing 70% of the job that I could do if I did that, but then I could focus all my time on the main things or the things I enjoy most or the vision and the strategy, while they do maybe at the beginning, in my mind, a subpar job.
hmm
Or but in time, like I learned I could coach them. I could coach them better. But even if someone was just 60% as good, and
hmm
I had 7 of them, there's just so much more that gets done. So learning to value my time and spending it where it has the most impact was massive.
hmm
From there, it was learning how to earn income that's independent of my time. So
mm,
most people earn income based on time spent. And I think that there's value in that. But you can always do that.
yeah.
So how do you get to the point that you earn income without putting any time into it, and then building that income to a point that it covers everything you want, your current lifestyle, beyond your current lifestyle, whatever that is, so that you can
Yes.
spend your time exactly as you want?
Yes.
And when that
Yes.
happens, a lot of people think that they want to retire and they're just going to sit around, but you're not going to, like, most people aren't wired to do that. You're not going to I mean, I don't think anyone's wired to do it, but like most people aren't going to enjoy that. It's going to get boring at a certain point. I think what people want is freedom to be
Mm,
able to choose when and how they work and for how long, and to be able to stop whenever they want to stop, and then start up and get into a project they're really passionate about, and pour in an 8-hour day, 3 days, and then take the next 2 off, right? I think that's what people want, is to figure out what lights them up
yes.
and spend an adequate time in that place.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely makes sense that being able to earn income independent of our time is vital for getting us there. And I think one of the big questions that's come up a lot recently around how to get to that place is the question of how to handle debt. Debt, in so many ways, is a freedom killer. And there's all kinds of different philosophies out there about how we approach it. So, for those that do have debt, you know, there's the Dave Ramsey approach, which is, hey, like, go after it, stop wasting time. You've got money to put towards debt, do it. But then there are other people that will say, well, you know what, especially if it's lower interest debt, that shouldn't be the focus. If you've got the opportunity, you have investable capital, you leverage time, get that in the market or get that towards a higher ROI investment sort of as soon as possible and take advantage of the time you have and then use the gains from that to ultimately pay off the debt. How do you think about that sort of question?
Well, I would say For a lot of people, I mean, there's two types of debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt, for sure. For a lot of people, they have not been disciplined in the way that they need to. So they probably have bad debt that they should get out of. And I think Dave Ramsey is magical in that space. I think he is an incredible coach, mentor, teacher in getting out of debt. He's brilliant and he's helped a lot of people. I don't think Dave Ramsey is an incredible coach for creating wealth. I think that's a whole different level, right? So his strategies around getting out of debt are not going to be the same strategies to create wealth. Okay. So when that recognition is met, then I think it's easy to use things in tandem. So again, like, I don't want to say anything bad about anyone, whoever the person is, because they have gifts and talents that really are good that can benefit the world. Yeah. And Dave Ramsey's best in class. But I think that we're in a time right now with historic low interest rates. This is, in other words, the way I look at it, this is the cheapest money we may ever see in our lifetimes. This is cheaper than any money that our parents ever saw by a landslide. So to have like debt in the form of a mortgage at 2.5%, 2.75%. Maybe you haven't refinanced, you're at 3.5%, 4%, whatever your number, like, these are all really incredibly cheap dollars that if you just know some basics on investing, you should be able to make more than that. You should be able to arbitrage that, or make, if it costs you 3% for your mortgage and you can make 6% on an investment that's safe, that you're not going to lose that money in, that's a 3% arbitrage or 3% gain that you're making using someone else's money. I mean, that's incredible. And by the way, all parties are winning. The bank's still winning, you're still winning. So like, being able to take some sort of a home equity line on your, or a cash out refinance, whatever that looks like, that's cheap money. It's some of the cheapest money you'll ever find. There's other cheap debt that's out there. Now, credit card debt, I think, is bad. And I think that can be debilitating, and it can get to a point where, with enough of it, it's really hard to dig out of that hole. So I think that it's important to recognize that. I think that, if you're being charged, 19 to 25% on a credit card, you probably should get that taken care of sooner than later. But if you run the numbers as well, depending on what the investment is, depending on how long you pay things off, pay attention to the return that you can make on a compounding standpoint. So there are people that can run these. There's stuff you could Google that can say, hey, my debt is this, how much what's my opportunity loss cost? And then this investment opportunity I can earn at this percent. So you can pro forma it out and figure out like where you should be spending it. But at the end of the day, I think anytime you can roll a balance that has high interest into a 0% interest place and get some investment dollars working, I think getting to a place where you're always paying off a credit card every month and not spending beyond what your income allows, and then putting 15 or 20% of every pay period away, I think that's incredible.
Yeah. Really like the distinction between what's happening with the echo here. I'm going to edit that out. Really like the distinction between this idea of learning how to get out of debt versus learning how to go on offense, right? Super important distinction. And certainly the risk averse and probably in most cases sensible thing to do is, if you are in the credit card debt situation, you got to address that, right? It's pretty hard to go out and find a 21% return that's safe. I'm not saying it's not possible. You'll know more than I, but that's a trickier proposition than finding the 5 or 6% bond, right?
That's right.
That makes total sense to me. And making sure that you find the right mentor for the right thing. the more knowledgeable we are about a field, the easier it is to say, this person's great at helping me get out of debt versus this person's great at helping me go on offense. Understanding those distinctions really requires going pretty deep into a field.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think for me, it is important to bring people into my life that are really good at the thing I want to be good at.
Yeah.
So there needs to be some clarity. There are so many coaches out in the world now. Like everyone's a life coach.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's got the skill set. No one, I shouldn't say no one, very few people have formal training, but everyone's a life coach, right? That doesn't mean that they've had experience in levels of success that you want. So I think you've got to be really, inquisitive about what people have accomplished so that you can emulate those that have done it and you can copy. Like I'm the biggest copycat in the world. I find out when someone does something and I
Yeah.
take their program and I just follow it to a T. And I don't try to recreate anything until I feel like I have my hands around it and I can get
Yeah.
the results that they get.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think really appreciate the courage of being able to go into the unknown so often, so many times again and again, because I think there's often a lot of fear around entering the new territory and not knowing which questions to ask. And even like that distinction that you just came up with between being really good at helping people get out of debt versus helping someone really excel and really get to that point of freedom, they're two pretty substantially different skill sets. They're very related, right? Like success in one domain is going to affect success in another, but the skills to get to each place and the mindsets required really are quite different. That those are subtle distinctions to make.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, and I think it all starts with having clarity. What
Yeah,
is it that you really want?
yeah,
And who is doing that in a way that you respect, that's honorable and integrous,
yeah.
you know?
Yes,
So,
yes,
but most people don't know what they want. That's got to be step one. They're not
yes,
clear on what it is that they want. They're clear on what they don't want. They're clear on what they don't like about their job, but they're
yes,
not clear about what they want out of a job, or
yes.
what they want out of their business, or what they want out of their lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah. Let's even take the case of, an audience member for us. So small business owner who has been running the business for quite a while. And in these unpredictable COVID times with the economy, the restart being a little uneven, right? One month may be great, another month maybe not so good. Let's say this business owner has done step one pretty well. They know what their number is. They know the point to get to where, hey, this is sufficient passive income that my life can really change. So they know that. But what's happening in the business is that income is variable. One month they may be doing better than another month. Any words of wisdom for someone in that position? Anything that would be really important for them to know on their investing strategy?
Yeah, it's interesting because we're in a world where I almost feel like people think that most people have the same income every week. I actually don't know that that's the case. I think
Okay.
more people than not have variable income.
Hmm.
And so, especially if you're in the world of entrepreneurship, you for sure, I mean,
Definitely.
entrepreneurs can just not count on what they're going to get. I mean, feast or famine and everything in between. So, I think that it's important to discipline the habit of saving to be able to invest later or now, but the habit of saving based on a percentage, not based on a dollar amount. So if
Mm,
someone's income fluctuates, instead of saying I'm going to invest $1,000 per month or $1,000 per week, it's I'm going to invest 20% of what I make, and I'm going to do that first because it's real easy to spend money. But if you do that first, it's amazing how resourceful we can all become. And so, Mike McCallitz has a really great book called Profit First, and it's
hmm.
just such a cool, um, it's just a reframe on how we should be looking at our business and the income
Yeah.
that comes in, and to really pay yourself
Yes.
first in the form of number one, education, buying education that's going to help equip you, and then number two, putting dollars to work. I
Yeah.
think both are important, and the more aggressive you can be, the better. At one point in my career, for probably close to a decade, I mean, for sure 5 to 7 years, but likely longer than that, I was investing over 50% of the income that I made because
Mm,
I stayed comfortable with my lifestyle as my income grew. That was
yeah.
huge. That paid dividends, literally and figuratively,
Oh, yeah.
because it's just extra cash. So I was able to make some moves that maybe would have taken me a lot longer to make with buying real estate because I had the cash to put it down. Now, knowing what I know today, if you find a good deal, you can get the money.
Yeah.
But at that time, I didn't know that. And I felt like I had to have all the money. So, besides, getting a lender involved, I know so much more today, and I wish I knew that then, but that's just the story of life.
Yeah.
And so, I learned that lesson. And for everyone that's out there, you don't have to wait till you have money to be able to make money. But with the money that you do have and that you do earn, finding a way to be disciplined with those dollars every week,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
So agree, and so important, even if you feel you're disciplined, to appreciate that there are going to be moments of lapse. There's the old Richest Man in Babylon book about paying yourself first, right? And to just set up an automatic system, knowing that as disciplined as you may feel you are, you're still human. You're not going to get it right every time. And if you can just ensure that each month something is going towards saving and or investing, you'd be amazed how if you don't do that, the money just seems to slip out of your fingers. It
Yeah.
really does. Yeah.
You can always find a way to spend it, even subconsciously. Like a lot of people spend it and are like, where'd it go? And it's easy to go out and spend maybe a little more than you want on a Friday night or a Saturday night, or, there's a good sale. So you feel like you're getting a deal,
Yeah.
and we all like good deals. But if the good deal is lowering the amount of disposable income you have, it may not be worth the feeling that you get on
Yeah.
this good deal, but we get endorphins from it. So it's addictive, right? It's like, ooh, that feels good. I want another deal.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many ways in which spending is lower friction than saving or investing, right? There's
Hmm.
just less intentionality required to do it. And the
Yep.
whole notion of credit card reward points creates just this little voice in our head that's like, oh, it's okay. Simplest thing in the world. Um, I'm curious just to switch gears for a moment, so beyond proactivity and discipline, I think another thing that stands out to me about your work in investing is creativity. So I think one of the things that stands out for me that I haven't heard much of from other writers on investing is number one, you're able to find some really, really unconventional private market stuff. But then number two, you are so creative in how you negotiate deals. Can you speak a little bit about how creativity is infused in how you do and teach investing?
Yeah. So to me, investing is really a game. And the more that I could get into that mindset and away from a scarcity mindset, the better off I've been. And what I mean by that is when you hold your money so tight, it's really hard to go do something with it. It's really hard to let it go. And it cripples your ability to make decisions or to act on decisions. And so I don't want to hold it so tight. I don't want to feel like, oh, this is all this money, and I could never get it back. It's funny. I just had a conversation with one of my business partners last night, and we had a business really take off. We have a training business called Casey Dogs. It's a dog training company.
Hmm.
And Patrick Mahomes actually trained his dog at our studio, which was
Okay.
cool.
Very cool. Yeah.
And so I had a conversation, and this has been just an epic year, and my partners have earned more than they've ever earned before, and they're the operators of the business, and they're just thrilled. And we've had some people throwing out some pretty exciting offers for us to sell it, and we've only owned it a year, not even a
Hmm.
year yet. It will be a year when we sell it, but I think we're going to sell it. And he's like, yeah, I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to make this much money again. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is like, you now have the experience to do all this stuff. What do you mean? you're for sure going to make more money than this. Like this is a given. He's like, this is not a given. I literally think this might be the most money I ever make any year in my entire life. And I'm like, you got to get out of that mindset. That mindset is limiting. And that's really where I feel like people hold on to the dollars. There's so much scarcity around money and losing it and not having it and not being able to make it back. And there's so much opportunity out there. There are so many ways to make money, but you've got to get in the game. You've got to educate yourself, and you've got to partner and align with people that have more experience than you do. But if you're doing what they are doing, you're probably going to earn similar to what they're earning. And so I just think you surround yourself with the right people. You for sure need to educate yourself, and you need to be willing to pull the trigger. And so that's it. Get away from, like, recognize when because your brain, you've trained your brain over years to have whatever internal conversations you're having. So
Yes.
recognize when it's limiting your opportunity.
Yeah.
Because those that succeed at a high level, I guarantee their mindset's different. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no question that internal dialogue is so important to be mindful of it. And I think another aspect of creativity for you, I've noticed, is you often, in some of these unconventional deals that you do, you don't accept the first offer. I think it's so common when we're exploring, especially new investing terrain, we're given terms, right? And you don't accept those at face value.
I have a hard time accepting something at face value. I mean, if it really is like just a killer deal at those terms, that's fine. I'm probably still going to ask, though, because I think most people present things where they have an incredible deal. And so if they have an incredible deal, then I may not. Maybe I do, but maybe I don't. So what if I can make it a little bit more interesting, a little more appealing? And the goal, I mean, in some cases, it's like, well, maybe you take a little bit less, but it's still a really good deal. And then I can feel like it's a really good deal. Or maybe it's just term specific. So maybe they want a certain dollar amount, like they're set on that dollar amount.
Yeah.
But the way that you get to that dollar amount could be creative, or there are terms that you care about more than that dollar amount, right? And so if you can, I just think you figure out what's important to the person, both parties, figure out what's important to the other person in the party, and then make sure that they're clear on what's important to you. And I think the odds most times when people are in good communication and understand that you can create some sort of a win-win situation. In this deal right now, my partner wants to have a 7-figure exit. He's never had a 7-figure exit. That would be really exciting for him. Actually, I've never had a 7-figure exit before. So it'll be like, I'm just in a different point in life where, I don't get all worked up about that. But my partner is a lot younger, and so he's thrilled about it. And the offer that we're getting, this guy's like maxed out on how much he can put in. And there's a gap of about $300,000. And so it's like, well, why don't we sell or finance it? Right. So, and then also we're then not going to pay taxes on that part at that we're going to pay on the other portion of it.
Yeah.
And so, like, there are ways that you can make it win and make it work and get what you want. And so in this instance, my partner has a number. He wants to get that number. He wants to at least be in 7 figures. And then this other person has a fixed amount of money, but he's going to do a cash offer. And I like a cash offer. I like that better than trying to have someone that goes to get an SBA loan.
Yeah.
So that is a plus to me. And then if we can work around some other things, there's another split on income that we have already collected based on services that are be performed in the future, just because we have a long wait list for that company for dog services. There's just so many different ways to split it where everyone can get what they want. And that's the goal. So if you're curious and you ask questions and you figure out what's important to the other person, usually that's not the most important to you. Like for me, I want to get, like, I love cash flow.
Yeah.
the price doesn't matter as much. Like I have other people when I'm buying their assets, they care about price. And it's like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we seller finance this? Or why don't we get creative here? Or why don't I give you a lump sum on this portion? And why don't we draw this out? Or I want a low interest rate or whatever it is. There's
Yes.
ways to make it win.
Yeah. It's so rich, this territory. It makes me appreciate how you start at that very beginning with the life that you want, and you do the work to really learn about the subject matter. And having done that, you can see that, well, for the life I want, cash flow is really important, right? But you're able to make very intentional choices about what you prioritize. And each of these variables, they can be adjusted, and we adjust them based on our empathy too, not just what we want, but our empathy, really learning, all right, this is what this other person really wants. And we're going to educate them because they probably haven't gone as deep as you have in learning this territory. And so there's this beautiful combination of you being intentional about what you want, you helping them see what they want, and that, oh, by the way, there's all these ways that we can both get what we want. And it's just this beautiful, empathetic approach to investing.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's the way to get a win-win. So instead of like, I like to negotiate terms so that I win, my group wins, that, my mastermind gets, better terms.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to do it at the expense of them losing. I want
Yeah.
them to win too, because I want them to come back and say, hey, let's do it again. We got another deal.
Yes.
I want that repeat business type of opportunity.
Yes.
And we've been able to do a lot of that because we structure these win-win scenarios.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. As we come towards the end of our time together, I always love, because this is a show about building profitable businesses, but also human businesses. I am curious, what do you do for fun? When you're not doing business, you're not investing. What's fun for Justin?
Well, I love to travel. So I want to go to every country in the world, and I've got a pretty good start. I'm at 76 right now.
Oh, yeah.
We're about to take a family trip to the Black Hills of South Dakota. So that will be a great time. I love awesome food, and I love sports. I play volleyball every week, sand volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love movies. I love music. I love playing guitar. The list goes on, and I've got a lot. I mean, I love football. I don't play; I just watch. No need to get injured. There's so much I love. There's so much I love to learn. I mean, to be honest with you, I really enjoy just like going to seminars and going to boot camps and being a student. I feel like I'm this eternal student that has this desire to be a lifelong learner.
Mm. I love it. What a wonderful list of activities, a wonderful mindset for just digging into what the world has to offer. And so appreciate this conversation, so appreciate the unconventional approach to investing in life, and have little doubt that people can take a lot away from it. So thank you so much, Justin.
Well, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun hanging out.